Good afternoon and welcome. This is Spotlight Africa and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. My name is Uyai Imam. Today on Spotlight Africa, President Tshisekedi creates financial and economic criminal court. Ugandan opposition leader fled abroad fearing for his life. Ethiopia urges fuel saving amid Middle East-driven price surge. Pope Leo XIV to deliver prayers and calls for peace on landmark Africa tour. In other news, Senegal makes $471 million debt payment but faces tough times ahead. These are all the stories that we have ahead on Spotlight Africa. To stay with us. It's a beautiful day to be an African, and we're bringing you news stories and events happening all around the continent. We head straight to Congo, where the president, Felix Tshisekedi, has signed a decree into law on Saturday to create a brand new specialized court to deal with economic and financial crimes such as corruption and money laundering. Signed on Saturday by Congolese President Tshisekedi, a decree law established a specialized criminal court to deal with a variety of offenses. You're looking at currency counterfeiting, corruption, fraud and embezzlement of public funds. The court's creation aims to strengthen the Democratic Republic of Congo's judicial system in the fight against financial and economic crimes, which are numerous in the country. Previously, cases of irregularities or suspected crimes that financial authorities forwarded to the judicial system often met dead ends, as magistrates lacked the expertise to deal with such cases. The tribunal will consist of a primary jurisdiction court and appeals chamber. At least 40 judges will likely be needed to work across the two chambers. The question of qualified candidates remains, as the selected magistrates will need to have expertise in this specified field, as well as prove their strong sense of integrity. By law, the new structure will have to be operational within 3 months of the decree laws entering into force. Over now to Uganda, where opposition leader Bobi Wine has told the reporters that he left the country because he feared for his life following January's disputed election. Speaking to journalists from an undisclosed location after spending 2 months in hiding in Uganda, he said it was clear that the regime wanted to eliminate him. The pop star turned politician earlier announced he had fled the country in a video posted on X. In it, he repeated his claim that the election had been rigged in favor of Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. Museveni, who is currently 81, won with 72% of the vote and accused the opposition of seeking to overturn the results through violence. Wine, 44, whose real name is Robert Kulayagi, told newsmen that during his 2 months in hiding, he had been sheltered by supporters, saying, "People gave him food, people gave him clothing, and everything else." Away from that, faced with an alarming rise in fuel prices linked to the conflict in the Middle East, the Ethiopian government is now calling on citizens and institutions to avoid unnecessary consumption and is announcing measures to stabilize supply and combat illegal trade. During a press conference, Ahmed Shide, the Minister of Finance, described the price increase as alarming and outlined measures to prevent a major crisis. The Ethiopian government plans to increase fuel subsidies to keep prices affordable, purchase additional petroleum products to prevent supply shortages, and launch a national crackdown on illegal fuel trade, targeting sales outside official channels or at prices above the regulated rate. The Ethiopian government has sounded the alarm over the surge in fuel prices, a direct consequence of tension in the Middle East and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a strategic shipping lane for oil products. According to the minister, these measures are accompanied by strengthened enforcement against individuals and companies that violate regulations to protect the market and ensure fuel access for everyone. Ethiopia, entirely dependent on imported petroleum products, is particularly vulnerable to global fluctuations. In another development, Pope Leo XIV is set to embark on his first major tour of Africa in April, a visit expected to blend prayer, diplomacy, and strong calls for peace, justice, and equality across the continent. The head of the Catholic Church will travel to 4 countries: Algeria, Cameroon, Angola, and Equatorial Guinea, delivering 7 masses and 11 speeches during the multi-day trip. The tour will begin on April 13 in Algiers, where he will meet President Abdelmajid Tebboune and celebrate Mass at the Basilica of Our Lady of Africa, becoming the first pope to visit the North African nation. Meanwhile, in Cameroon, Leo XIV will meet longtime leader Paul Biya and travel to the conflict-hit city of Bamida, where he is expected to issue a strong appeal for peace amid a decade-long separatist crisis. In a separate development, Congo-Brazzaville voted on Sunday in an election expected to extend 82-year-old President Denis Sassou Nguesso's more than 4 decades in power in the oil-rich Central African country. 6 candidates stood against Sassou Nguesso, but the main opposition was divided and largely absent, leaving him set to win another 5-year term. The former paratrooper colonel is already one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, along with Equatorial Guinea's Theodore Obiang Nguema and Cameroonian President Paul Biya. Observers said voter turnout could reach a record low. Reporters saw ballot boxes just half full at some polling stations when they closed at 6 p.m. about 1700 GMT. The president toured the country during the election campaign, backed by the ruling Congolese Workers' Party, urging voters to come to the ballot box. He voted in the morning in the Gwense district of the capital, accompanied by soldiers and greeted by hundreds of supporters. Now, Senegal successfully paid nearly $500 million in debt obligations on Friday, avoiding default, but spending cuts delayed payments to other lenders, and growing civil unrest cast doubt on how much time the effort buys the West African nation. The Central Bank of West African States transferred 380 million euros to Eurobond holders and $33 million for dollar-denominated bonds covering principal and coupons. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's government to mobilize local resources via regional markets after the IMF suspended its program following the discovery of $13 billion in undeclared debts, the largest ever hidden debt in a country with an IMF program, according to investors. Meanwhile, farmers in South Africa facing an eruption of foot and mouth disease say a government vaccination effort has come too late, pointing to a calf lying motionless in a green field in South Africa's Eastern Cape province. Farmer Igasian Felix let out a heavy sigh. Home to more than 2 head of cattle per person, the province is the beating heart of South Africa's livestock industry. But its endless expanses have been swept by panic since an outbreak of highly contagious foot and mouth disease, which was declared a national disaster in February. The government in January rolled out a 10-year drive to vaccinate nearly 20 million cattle against the highly contagious and sometimes deadly viral infection. But farmers like Felix, who are based near the town of Humansdorp, accused the government of allowing the crisis to escalate until it had gone too far. Nearly 1,000 outbreaks have been reported in South Africa, affecting all of 9 provinces. The disease has also been reported in neighboring Botswana, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe in recent months. Ghana has unveiled a one-way evacuation plan for citizens in Qatar. We'll bring you the details of the story and more in a moment. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. This is still Spotlight Africa. We head to the west now, where Nigeria continues to battle an outbreak of Lassa fever. The number of new infections dropped to 65 in the last week of February. the country's Center for Disease Control (NCDC) said on Monday, down from 77 the week before. But the case fatality rate has jumped to more than 23% due to people waiting too long to seek treatment. It also pointed to poor sanitation and low information awareness in high-burden communities. The NCDC says it is supporting local authorities with increased surveillance and contact tracing, and deploying rapid response teams to infection hotspots. Personal protective equipment is being distributed to health facilities. People between the ages of 21 and 30 are the most affected. Infections among healthcare workers have also risen. Lassa fever belongs to the family as Marburg and Ebola, two deadly viruses that lead to infections with fever, vomiting, and in worst-case scenarios, hemorrhagic bleeding. Its name is from the town of Lassa in northern Nigeria, where it was first identified in 1969. Away from that, Kenya says Russia has agreed to stop accepting Kenyan nationals into its military after concerns that hundreds of citizens had been drawn into the war in Ukraine. The announcement was made in Moscow by Kenya's Foreign Affairs Minister Musalia Mudavadi after discussions with Russian Foreign Minister Sheikh Yelarov. Mudavadi said that he understands, and there is an understanding, reached with Russia, which means Kenyans will no longer be able to join the Russian armed forces through the defense ministry. The issue has become increasingly sensitive in Kenya after security agencies warned earlier this year that large numbers of citizens had been recruited to fight on the Russian side of the conflict. Moscow maintains that foreign nationals serving in its military signed contracts willingly and in line with Russian legislation, which allows them to end their service early if they choose. But in Kenya, several accounts have emerged from people who say they traveled abroad believing they had secured well-paid civilian employment, only to later discover they had been signed up for military roles linked to the Ukraine war. Kenyan authorities say they have been dismantling networks suspected of exploiting job seekers. According to Mudavadi, more than 600 recruitment agencies have been shut down in recent months over allegations they were sending Kenyans abroad under false pretenses. Meanwhile, a further 4 people have died in Kenya after heavy rain caused widespread flooding, taking the number to have died in the past week to at least 66. The capital, Nairobi, was hit by more heavy rain overnight, although no new deaths were recorded. 11 people were rescued after a minibus taxi, known locally as Matatu, got stuck as water rose in Nairobi. According to the Kenya Red Cross, while 2 children were saved from a flooded house, heavy rainfall over the past week has triggered flash floods as rivers have burst their banks, flooding homes and damaging roads, power and water lines. Some roads have been closed after bridges were damaged in Nairobi, while some schools were also flooded after Saturday's downpour. The Interior Ministry warned on Sunday that different parts of the country were continuing to experience heavy rains, increasing the risk of flooding. Now, Ghana and its government have initiated an emergency evacuation for its citizens in Qatar as tension escalates across the Middle East following the ongoing conflict involving Iran, Israel, and the United States. The decision was announced in a statement issued by the Embassy of the Republic of Ghana in Qatar. The embassy said Ghanaians in Qatar who wish to be evacuated are required to confirm their interest by submitting the biodata pages of their passport via email to the embassy to facilitate the process. The mission also clarified that the arrangement would only allow for a one-way evacuation to Ghana and urged citizens interested in leaving Qatar to confirm their participation promptly. And that's all we're able to bring to you at this time, bringing you stories and events happening all around the continent of Africa. This has been brought to you by Spectrum Television. Do what follows on social media Subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. We are MN for Spotlight Africa. Good afternoon.